Hello, yes, this is your girl, Queen of Commentary, and we are back with another video. Yes, so of course we're back with uh, Miss Brittany, and we're going to go over some posts that she um, has shared on her platform. And I'm just going to go ahead and give my commentary. It's right up my alley, it's spiritual. And she's going through some things, obviously. When we go through things, we usually turn to God, right? But then when everything is good, you turn away from God. That's the problem, all right? But before we get into it, you know what to do. Thumbs up this video, subscribe if you have not already, cut your notifications on, and leave us a comment. So it is getting around on these YouTube streets that Miss Brittany is going around to different people's pages and basically causing mischief on their page, trying to get them in trouble, trying to, basically stifle their growth and possibly, taking their whole income from them, if you will. And so I say to all of those, including myself, watch yourself, watch your commentary, watch the type of, I can't say this enough, I repeat all the time, but they say a good teacher is repetitive, and I did not know that, and it says it in the Bible. And the Bible does repeat itself, because a lot of us, we do not get it from the first time, and some of us, of course, most of us have to go through stuff to really learn. I went through it, on a few of my platforms and things like that, so I can basically say that, yeah, she will say one thing out front, and do something different in the background. Only this time she actually said that's what she plans to do. And so I always say, don't think that she's bluffing. Every time she goes through that type of what they would call rant, homegirl is serious. Okay, so please watch your back. Please watch what you say, and also be careful of the content that you use. If you notice, I just put my voice on this, these videos. I don't use any of her content. I don't use any of her videos. I'm not interested into doing that because, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I've already been through it. And so I'm saying, please be careful and basically talk about this young lady with caution, because she is on the prowl. Okay, so yes, she had placed a verse up here on her page. We're going to go over it, a few posts. And it says Roman, and it's Romans, Miss Brittany, not Roman. I think it's an S on that. Romans 8:31. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look up Romans 8:31. We have to learn as a people that, like I said before, you cannot just put, God down whenever things are not working. Then you say, hey, God, can you help me out? And once you learn what not to do, you are not supposed to do it. Okay? That's just how it works. And it looks like, she does this just to, let's see. Yes, it is Romans, guys. All right. She does this, just to get attention, because God's people, we're not that few, like Cat Williams say. We are here, and of course I'm here, and sometimes I feel like she does put up these things so I can go and talk about it, and it could just be me just thinking that. But every time something goes on between she and James, she goes back to her Bible, because she doesn't know how to be a partner to someone, be a mother to someone, be a wife to someone, be a God's child all at one time. It's either or. So when she's starting to talk about, scriptures, just know that there's trouble in paradise. Okay, so it says, what then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? Yeah, okay, so there you go. I've said that before. I just said, it's funny, I said that to my husband, because, every level that we go to, there's a new devil, there's a new situation, a new test, if you will. And if God is for you, who can be against you? Right there is very important, because that soothes my anxiety. If I'm around people who doesn't have my best interest, or who is jealous around me, even though if you have a choice, please do not group yourself around people who are jealous. You get what I'm saying? And envious. But how can you separate yourself from that when it's a spiritual warfare out here? But yes, if God is for you, who could be against you? But one thing about it is, Miss Brittany and whomever else is watching, is he's not, I mean, yes, he's for us. You know, at one time, God did not forgive. I just basically read that today in Peter chapter 2. That at one time, God did not forgive. He was not a forgiving God. If you understood, if you read it, Genesis and things like that, and Exodus, all of those things where he flooded the earth and everything, that was just right in the beginning. God did not forgive. If you did wrong, it was an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You know what I mean? He was not as forgiving. And now we have a forgiving God because of what? He gave his only begotten Son, and who shall ever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. But you just can't be a good person to get in heaven. You can't just do good things. You have to live the life that God wants you to live. And so he is for us, but he's not for the bad living. Okay, he's not for that. He's not for her coming out here and showing all of her assets. He's not out for the fornication and being with different men and making all of these different families with these different men. He's not for that. He's for you to get yourself together. Because one thing the enemy does is he does twist the word to fit its own narrative, right? God is love, but God does not love sin. And I don't care what sin there is and what sin you do. Sin is sin, right? All right. So you can't remix. You can't, basically say, well, he really meant this. No. One thing about the Bible is pretty straightforward. There's no confusion because God is not confusion. The enemy is. And the spirit of Leviathan, or the demon Leviathan, gets in our heads and literally switch things up sometimes. You get what I'm saying? Case in point, they say dyslexia, anything like that, right? I was at work yesterday and somebody said, well, I don't want all the bottles in one bag. And so my mind, because I was tired, I was hungry, I was standing up for hours, I heard, I want the bags in there all at one time. And so when you see that, the lady was like, no, I said this. And it kind of aggravated her and it aggravated me. That confusion right there could have caused an issue with my customer service or had an issue with her. I was able to calm it down. I identified it. But now that I'm thinking about it, whenever you were twisting words in your head and you know that God did not mean, God is love, but all love ain't God. You get what I'm saying? All things that people want you to accept is not godly. In fact, we're in the world, but we're not of the world. You have to pray and say, God, please keep my mind straight. May I hear correctly, because that's the enemy trying to get into your psyche and confuse you and have you doing things that he wants you to do instead of what God wants you to do. Okay? So this verse emphasizes the assurance and confidence believers have in God's support and protection. He is going to protect you, but it's easier for him to protect you when you are doing right, when you are living the word, not picking and cherry picking out of the Bible the verses that you want, or going to pastors, right? Going to pastors that fit your narrative. All pastors, because I think she shared something from a pastor, are not of God. In fact, a lot of them today are not. They're all about money. They're all about living their life and remixing the life of the demons and the devil and saying that it's godly. You have to be careful who you call a shepherd. You have to be careful who you sit under and learn from, because they can literally send you somewhere that you don't want to be ultimately. Okay? Life is not easy. The Bible is a double-edged sword. Jesus came to divide, not to put together, if you will. And people think, oh, we all supposed to be one. No, we're not. He came to take the wheat from the tares. He is not here to bond evil with good. He wants to separate. That's why, you have to watch out the people you watch out on how, who you hang out with and who are your so-called friends and things like that. And again, who you listen to, what content you watch and all of that. You have to be careful, because that gets in your psyche, and then you're going to what? You're going to mimic it. You're going to imitate it. You're going to live your life in that way, and whomever you watch. There's a person out here, unfortunately, he passed away as a mukbanger. I don't know if you guys heard about the guy, and, he was a person who lived a certain lifestyle, and he ate good, bad food. And I remember, his name is Lips, guys. Y'all can go ahead and look him up, but there's some unfortunate things that happened, and I learned about it just yesterday. And I don't know when you guys are going to get this, but it was a few days ago. And it kind of cramped my style a little bit. But I had to say, you know what? The best thing I can say is I hope that he corrected his life before things ended. And I remember one day he had, made a video of people saying, hey, change your lifestyle, man. Change your lifestyle. And he was like, nope, God is going to love me right here. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do this. And basically, the word kept its word. It says that the wages of sin is demise. And it just basically at that point, I had to kind of cut off, the emotion about it and say it is what it is. He had a heart issue just a few months ago, basically, they call it a widowmaker. And he survived that. But unfortunately, he didn't survive the second thing. And then, rumors are saying that his partner, took his life. And that lifestyle is dangerous on so many levels, and spiritually, you have to understand where I'm coming from. And I pray that anybody who is dealing with that type of situation, that you get delivered and know that God does not support that. He loves you. He's waiting for you to put that type of thing down, even if it's not that, anything. If you are, drinking adult beverages, if you're, basically making anything your God, even your personal life can become your God, where you say, you know what, I'm going to risk it all. I am going to basically gain the world and gain money and gain fame just for my internal soul to suffer and go to the place beneath our feet. And we don't want that. We don't want our lifestyles to become our God. And you know what's right and wrong, Miss Brittany. Whomever listens to this knows what's the difference between right and wrong, and so do I. And so I basically beg everybody to get themselves together, because the word is not a lie. It's been true today, tomorrow, and even years after. You get what I'm saying? It'll never change. And if you get into it correctly, your life will change drastically. Okay? So let's go to the next post that she did. All right. So we did Romans 8:31, which is who, God's for me, who can be against me, right? Okay, but don't abuse that verse. All right? When they can't reach you at your highest level of elevation, okay, they will remind you of your lowest points. Now, Miss Brittany, no one can remind you of anything that you're not living. If you are currently doing the same thing over and over again, it's just like saying, well, why y'all keep bringing up that James did this and James did that and this? Because you're still showing signs that is happening now. You get what I'm saying? Or why are you bringing up back, when I was fast? Because you're still doing that. Nobody can put something in your face that they don't know about. One thing about social media, as 2, 3 days, 4 days go by, people forget it. But you bring it back up. You said to everybody, Miss Brittany, that this man was a demon, that he was a devil, that you hid things from him. Hid things for him to make him look better. Well, baby, that doesn't freaking change just because some babies came into the world. That doesn't change overnight. This man is still chasing tail. He's still doing other things that are not right. He's coming on camera with his chest out. He's basically being just overt as you are, right? He has not changed. So that person that you were talking about is still there. You're still living with them. And it's basically burning in your soul that we still know this. You had to say something to save the situation. Keeping things private sometimes, or no, not sometimes, all the time, will make it grow. So the thing about it is you told everybody to calm the situation down. I've seen plenty of content providers who had their partners on there, and they would say, hey, I'm online. They would go online for security. So that's why you did that. You used the fact that he is trying to become an actor. He is trying to get out there and say, look, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to put it out there. So if anything were to happen, we automatically know what went on, that James is the culprit. So yeah, that would calm the savage beast, and that's why she did that. Okay? And so no one is going to forget it and things like that. If we see things change, then there's no reason for us to bring up old stuff. When you come onto camera and you're emotional and this, and then, when someone comes in the room and things change, people are very intuitive. People can, if you've been basically watching content for years, the same content at that, you kind of know how people act. You can kind of recognize things, as I watch things, I pay attention more to the detail, not just the big picture, not just what you want me to see, but I watch body language and words that are being said and things like that. And so that was basically saying that she and he were having some problems at that time, and she was, basically telling people to be quiet, and it did just the opposite. So instead of doing that, she's not yelling and telling right now. Now she's going back to scriptures, and so she's all over the place. She's confused, and that's obvious. Lowest points. Don't fall for the devil's tactics. Keep rising. Okay, so for us not to fall for the devil's tactics, of course, you have to know the word, you have to do the word, and it has to be in you, Miss Brittany. It's not in you, you know it, but then you have to live it, and it has to grow within you. So the devil does not have such an easy way in. You have to ask God to seal all of those ends in, of fornication, of being fast, of being a person who doesn't tell the truth. You're not supposed to lie on people. You're not supposed to, talk about people in an ill way and things like that. It's all in the word, in Hebrews and things like that. It'll keep telling you over and over again. It gives you plenty of chances to get yourself together. Okay, and see, being a social media content person, it's a lot of pressure on them to live a certain way. You live more, you're more interested in living for us, meaning to basically impress us, but you have to impress God. You have to do what God wants you to do, and a lot of us that don't want to heal, we don't want to just basically put things down and just heal. You can't heal while you're still working. You can't heal while you're still, acquiring new baggage, Miss Brittany. You got to put it down. Put it down at Jesus' feet and let him clean you inside. You're not clean inside because at any time that rah-rah can come out of you. Anytime that cussing, that fussing and cursing. You don't curse your enemy. You love your enemy. And so you're still going around trying to curse your enemy, which is going to just make things worse for you. It says in the word, I think in Proverbs, that it says that the hole in the ditch that you are digging for others, you will trip and fall into it. Okay, and so it does not do you any service to go around and try to, basically put pain and mischief and strife on other people who obviously are doing this for a living, and obviously, you don't know it, but your storyline is blessing others, so therefore you're able to do what you're supposed to do, and you're able to, take care of your 6 children, and you get a good income every month, because other people you're blessing other people indirectly just by the storyline, helping millions of people. I'm just saying, you have to do the math. Okay, so another thing that was concerning to me, and this is her, I think she had a pastor or Pastor Mike or whatever, be an example. She shared it. She didn't type this. She shared it from his page. So apparently she and this pastor have she's promoting the church. Be an example. Show kindness to unkind people. So she's showing this, and I just said that, you're supposed to, God says, love your enemy. You have to pray for them. Anybody who's messing with you, just understand that God is going to remove them. God is going to deal with them. For you to go around and single-handedly try to make things worse on them is going to make things worse on you. Forgive people. You're supposed to forgive people. Forgiveness is not of her because she has a terrible, situation with Jezebel spirit that needs to be delivered by God. And you have to start doing the work, Miss Brittany. Faith without works is dead. You can't say you're a good person, but you don't have anything to show for it. Because every time we see you going through this temper tantrum, talking about you're going to do this, this, and that, and you basically show that. You don't just put empty words for negative and evil things. You're not just saying it. You believe it, you do it, and it happens. And so if you take that same energy and put it to positive stuff, what would happen? Remember, Miss Brittany, when we're mothers and when we're parents, remember, you're not just living for yourself. Everything that you sow into this world is going to come off on your children. It says it in the word, the sins of the father follow the child. So anything that you're trying to do, which is to cause mischief or sabotage others, just know you're making it hard for your own children when they're off and trying to make a way. Okay? When you sow goodness into people, you're sowing good for you, and you're also sowing good for your children, your children's children, your children. This is a generational thing. We all talk about generational curses and generational wealth, but generational wealth is it's not monetary. It's information. That's generational wealth. Because money runs out. Money goes and comes, but knowledge, you can pass that on. There is no, bill to that. For me to pass along this information costs me nothing to do that. And it costs you nothing to sit here and listen to it, guys. That's how it works. So forgiveness is not just because you tell me you tell me to forgive you. No, God requires us to forgive 77 times 7 times so I can be forgiven. But forgiven doesn't necessarily mean forget. And to forgive someone, of course you're supposed to go forth and do no more. If you constantly do the same offense, then you can't expect people not to just say, you know what, I'm going to leave that person alone. I'm going to get away. And that is really, to be honest, that's all you can do with the Jezebel spirit. You're either going to be in there with them or you're not. It's no middle. And that's why her relationships are not working, because everything's fine when it's fine, but when it's not, it really isn't. And then you hear that rah-rah coming to her voice, and she calls you all kinds of names and makes any man. I'm not saying it's right. At no time I'm saying that a man or anybody should put their hands on anyone in a negative way. No. But the enemy will tempt you and will cause people to call, they know your buttons and they will press your buttons for you to do X, Y, and Z. It's unfortunate. But that's what happens. And so you have to be full of the Spirit. You have to pray. You have to get the word in you before you even go and speak to someone that you know is a Jezebel spirit, which you guys of the world say narcissist. But in the spiritual aspect of it, it's a Jezebel spirit. Okay? And people don't like to hear about that. People don't want to understand it, but it is a real situation. Who don't deserve it. Okay? Everyone deserves it, guys. Forgiveness is not up you to forgive someone. It's not up to you to say if they deserve it or not. Because put yourself in it. Put yourself in that situation. Would you want somebody to say you don't deserve forgiveness? Who told you that? God never said that. He said to forgive times 77 times 7 times. That's what you do. But forgive does not necessarily mean you have to deal with that person. You can forgive somebody from afar and keep it moving. Okay? Right. Your actions reflect who you are. Yes, it does. And so she actually shared this. And so we go by actions because God says judge a man by his fruits. If you're out here, you're saying one thing, but you're living another way. And so she knows better, but she doesn't want to do better because it's not in her. She needs to get cleaned up. She needs to get dunked in the water, get baptized, get into Christ, get into her word, get off of social media. There's so many different spirits out here, so many demons out here. Spiritually, you have to be armored with God's word to even get through, because you will get sucked back into the enemy's camp within 3.5 seconds, because the enemy is always there. He's looking at you. He's jealous of you. He's angry. He's trying to figure out a way to get you out of the righteous lane. And that righteous lane is this narrow. The enemy's lane is so wide. It says it in the word. Wide is the road of destruction, narrow is the road of destiny and righteousness. So it's not hard for him to knock you off of that narrow road. So you got to keep your eyes on the prize, which is God. You have to ask him to cover you in everything you do. When you travel to work, when you come from work, every day to ask him to cover you and be with you. And it's whom today shall you serve. It's a daily thing. It's like a daily supplement. You get what I'm saying? If you go a day without reading the word, you will become a victim of the world. Okay? That's how fragile life is. One decision can either, benefit you or not. It's just that simple. So please, like you take your daily medicine, your daily supplements, like you take your daily physical food, make sure you get into your word every day. Read a chapter every day. I don't care where you start. Just start reading it, because this world is getting worse, and it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. So get closer to God. All right, guys? I've been here long enough. I will see you next time. And if it's helped you, let me know in the comments. All right?